Chosen One, I want to begin with something that may explain a feeling you've carried for a very long time. Most people will never truly understand what has been resting inside you, and that is not a reflection of their love or their intentions. It speaks to the nature of what you've been entrusted with and the season you have been walking through. Some of the most important things developing within you were never meant to be obvious to the people around you, because they have been taking shape in places only God could fully see. Stay with those two words for a moment, God knows, not as a comforting phrase people repeat when they do not know what else to say, but as something real and deeply personal. God knows exactly what you have been carrying, how long you have carried it, what it has required from you, and the moments when the weight felt almost too much to continue holding. Nothing about your experience has been hidden from Him, and none of it has gone unnoticed. His awareness is not distant or detached. He has been present in every part of this journey, through mornings that felt heavier than you could explain, and through evenings when your strength seemed stretched thin. He was there during the quiet decisions no one applauded, when you chose once again to remain faithful to what had been placed within you. He saw every one of those moments, and what He saw was far greater than the struggle itself. What He saw was you. He saw the person continuing to carry the call, even when there was no visible evidence that anything was changing. He saw the character being formed, the endurance being built, and the person He had already called and prepared. Even now, He sees someone being positioned for the purpose that has been unfolding beneath the surface all along. There is a particular kind of invisibility that belongs to seasons like this. It is more than feeling misunderstood. It is waking up each day knowing that the most significant thing happening in your life exists beneath the surface, beyond the reach of ordinary conversation. While others see the visible parts of your life, God sees the deeper movement underneath, the current that has been flowing quietly through every part of your journey. And that matters because He is not simply observing it. He is the one who placed that current within you in the first place. He knows why it is there, where it is leading, and what it has been producing in you through every hidden day. Even when you could not clearly see the process from the inside, He remained actively involved in shaping it. I believe it is important to name these things, because naming them honors them. The hidden experiences of the Chosen One are often overlooked, yet they carry immense significance. Most people will never know the discipline it took to keep believing when nothing around you confirmed what you sensed within. They will never fully understand the quiet strength required to continue showing up day after day while carrying something that had not yet revealed itself. Most people will never know the loneliness that comes from being the only one in the room, carrying a particular knowing. There were moments when you sat across from people you cared about and struggled to explain what was happening inside you. Not because you lacked the words, but because what was forming within you had not yet taken visible shape. Some things are difficult to describe while they are still becoming. They may never know the cost of this season either. The paths you left behind, the opportunities you released, the years invested in something but seemed slow to appear. They will never fully feel the weight of holding on through a timeline that stretched beyond what you expected, or the quiet courage required to keep going when every step demanded more than the last. The faith developed in a season like this is different from the kind people celebrate publicly. It grows in private places, in ordinary moments, far away from recognition or applause. It is the faith that chooses again and again to trust what God placed within you, even when visible proof has not yet arrived. And every one of those moments has been seen. God has witnessed all of it. Every unseen act of faithfulness, every private surrender, every decision to continue when it would have been easier to let go. None of it lost value because it happened away from the eyes of others. In His sight, those moments carry profound significance, and every one of them has been remembered. So when I say that most people will never know what you carry, I want you to understand something important. This was never a failure on your part, and it was never evidence that what you carry lacks importance. The hiddenness itself belongs to the season. Some things remain protected within until they are fully formed and ready for expression. What has been growing inside you has been shaped with purpose. The unseen season was never an accident, and the invisibility was never proof that nothing was happening. It was part of the process itself. What was placed within you remained hidden, because there was still work taking place in the depths of who you are, and that inner formation has been preparing the way for what comes next. The God who allowed this hidden season to exist understands every part of what it contained. He saw every quiet day, every unseen act of faithfulness, every moment when you continued forward without recognition or reward. None of it disappeared into the background. What was developed in secret is now being carried toward a season where its purpose can begin to take visible form. There is something I want you to receive before we go any further. God does not see you as someone who might become the one someday. He knows who you are with complete certainty, because He is the one who planted the call within you, remained with you throughout the process, and watched every step of your formation. What He knows about you is not based on possibility. It is based on reality. If these words are speaking directly to your experience, type known in the comments. If you recognize the invisible weight, the hidden carrying, and the quiet endurance being described here, let that simple word become your acknowledgement that you understand exactly what this message is touching. There is another dimension of this season that deserves to be named. The chosen one often learns to live in two realities at the same time. One reality is visible and practical. The responsibilities, relationships, routines, and circumstances that make up everyday life. The other exists beneath the surface, where a deeper knowing continues to live, carrying a vision that has not yet fully appeared. These two realities do not always seem to match, and living between them creates a unique inner experience. While the outside world sees ordinary circumstances, something much deeper is unfolding within you. Over time, this develops a richness that others rarely recognize because it is taking place in places they cannot see. Your inner life during this season has never been empty. In many ways, it has been more alive than ever, carrying a calling through uncertainty, remaining faithful without visible confirmation, and learning to hold both the promise and the waiting at the same time creates a depth that cannot be rushed or manufactured. There is also a particular attentiveness that develops during seasons like this. You begin noticing God in ordinary moments. You become aware of subtle movements, small confirmations, and quiet shifts that others might overlook. Through that process, your inner world gains strength, texture, and maturity that are difficult to explain but impossible to deny. Most people will never fully understand that richness because it does not always produce immediate outward evidence. Yet what has been growing within you is real. The formation season was not only building endurance and conviction, it was developing a depth of character and perception that the next season of your life will draw from and express through you. And there were people who tried to understand. There were those who listened carefully, asked sincere questions, and honored what they could sense, even when they could not see the whole picture. What they received was only a glimpse, not because you were hiding anything, but because some things can only be fully understood once they begin to take visible form. Those people mattered more than you may realize. Their willingness to lean in and honor what they could perceive was an acknowledgement of something genuine. They were part of the support God placed around you during this season, and their faith in what they could not fully see carried its own significance. As the next season unfolds, many of those same people will begin to understand more clearly. What once existed only as an inner reality will gradually reveal itself in ways that can be recognized. The honor they gave to the unseen version of your journey will find confirmation as what was hidden begins to emerge. I also want to speak more deeply about what it means when God knows you are the one. Sometimes those words are received as encouragement, a comforting statement that feels uplifting for a moment. But there is a much deeper truth underneath them that many people fully allow themselves to receive. When God says you are the one, He is not speaking about who you might become under ideal circumstances. He is not referring to a future version of you that appears after enough opportunities arrive. He is speaking about who you are right now, after everything this season has required of you. He is speaking about the version of you that remained faithful through long stretches of uncertainty, the version of you that carried the call when no one else could see it. The version of you that kept choosing faithfulness in ordinary moments that seemed insignificant at the time but were shaping something lasting within you. God wants you to embrace that identity now. He does not want you standing at a distance from your own becoming, waiting for visible evidence before you believe what is already true. The arrival of outward confirmation will never create your identity. It will simply reveal what has been true all along. You were the one before this season began. You were the one while walking through it, and you will be the one when the next season unfolds. What changes is not who you are. What changes is what becomes visible. Receive that truth with humility and clarity, not as a performance, and not as a reason to elevate yourself above anyone else. Receive it as an honest acknowledgement of what God placed within you and what this season has faithfully developed in you. What is opening before you is connected to who you have already become. The formation season was never a random struggle. It was a precise process, shaping specific qualities for a specific purpose. What was built within you belongs to your journey, your calling, and your path. It is uniquely fitted to what lies ahead. One of the greatest things this season produced is a settled knowing. After carrying something unseen for so long, you develop a confidence that no longer depends on constant validation. You learn how to remain anchored in what you know, even when evidence has not yet caught up to conviction. That kind of knowing is rare. It cannot be rushed, borrowed, or manufactured through easier circumstances. It is formed through experience, through waiting, and through choosing again and again to trust what was placed within you. The season ahead will draw upon that strength. It also produced a deeper resilience, not the kind that looks impressive from the outside, but the kind that quietly keeps moving forward when the journey becomes difficult. The ability to continue carrying what matters, even when the weight feels heavy, has become part of who you are. And somewhere along the way, it formed compassion. When you know what it feels like to carry invisible burdens, you begin to recognize that experience in others. The loneliness, the waiting, the silent battles. These things create a tenderness and understanding that can only come through lived experience. The season also left you with wisdom. Not borrowed wisdom, and not ideas learned from a distance. This wisdom was earned through real waiting, real questions, real silence, and real encounters with God in places where answers seem slow to arrive. It lives within you now, and it carries the depth of something that has been personally lived rather than merely understood. The season that is beginning to open before you requires a kind of wisdom that cannot be borrowed from someone else's journey. It comes from living through the waiting, carrying the weight, and remaining present through experiences that changed you from the inside. What has been formed in you was formed with purpose, and it is exactly the kind of wisdom that can only emerge from a life that has truly walked the path. There is something else I want you to receive, because many chosen ones find this difficult to believe. God sees your faithfulness as something deeply valuable. He does not look at your consistency, your perseverance, or your willingness to continue as merely expected behavior. He sees it as something precious, something worthy of attention, honor, and recognition. Many people underestimate the significance of ordinary faithfulness. When there are no dramatic breakthroughs, no visible rewards, and no obvious signs that anything is changing, it can feel like simply continuing is nothing special. Yet those quiet days often contain some of the most meaningful acts of devotion a person can offer. There is a sacred beauty in continuing when there is no applause. There is a strength in showing up again when yesterday looked much the same as today. Those moments may appear ordinary from the outside, but they are not ordinary in the eyes of God. Every time you chose to remain faithful, something meaningful was being offered, and every offering was received. Most people will never fully understand what you have carried. They will never see every hidden decision, every private surrender, or every moment when you chose to keep moving forward despite uncertainty. But God has seen all of it. Nothing from this season has been overlooked, forgotten, or dismissed. When God declares that you are the one, He is speaking about more than future accomplishments. He is speaking about the person you became while carrying the call. Your identity was never meant to be built solely on what you eventually achieve. It was also shaped by who you were while the promise remained unseen. He saw the dignity with which you carried what others could not understand. He saw the conviction that remained alive, even when external validation never arrived. He saw the way you served faithfully where you were, even while holding a vision for something that had not yet appeared. He saw the generosity you continued to extend while parts of your own story were still unfolding. He saw the quiet character that developed when no one was watching. Those qualities matter. In many ways, they reveal more about who you are than any future success ever could. The declaration over your life is not limited to what happens next. It includes the entire journey that brought you here. It includes the hidden years, the silent victories, and the parts of your story that only God fully understands. All of it belongs to the identity He sees when He looks at you. Some of you heard words like these before. You felt their truth in powerful moments, during times of worship, reflection, or deep spiritual clarity. Yet when you returned to the routines of everyday life, holding onto that truth became more difficult. That experience does not mean something is wrong with you. It simply means the truth is moving from being an emotional moment into becoming a foundation. There is a difference between briefly feeling something and learning to stand on it every day. The purpose of this season has never been to create temporary bursts of confidence. It has been teaching you how to remain rooted in what is true even when the emotional intensity fades. Real identity grows strongest in ordinary days, when there is nothing dramatic happening and you continue anyway. Those quiet days carry tremendous value. They teach you how to hold truth without needing constant reinforcement. Over time, what was once an encouraging message becomes a settled knowing, something steady enough to support you regardless of circumstances. God knows who you are in the extraordinary moments, and He knows who you are in the ordinary ones as well. His recognition of you does not rise and fall with your emotions, your productivity, or your visible progress. It remains constant. There is another aspect of this journey that deserves attention. Long seasons of carrying something unseen affect more than your spirit. They often leave an imprint on your mind and emotions as well. When a person spends years holding a promise, a calling, or a deep inner knowing without visible confirmation, a certain heaviness can develop. Thoughts may feel slower than they once did. Clarity can seem harder to access. Creative insight may arrive less freely than it did in earlier seasons. Many people quietly blame themselves for this experience. They assume something is wrong because they no longer feel as sharp, inspired, or mentally clear as they once were. Yet often what they are experiencing is the accumulated weight of carrying unresolved hopes and unanswered questions for a very long time. The mind, like the heart, feels the pressure of extended waiting. The effort of holding faith through uncertainty can create a sense of inner fatigue that is difficult to explain to others. It is one of the hidden costs of a formation season, and it often remains unseen by everyone except the person living through it. If you have felt that heaviness, that narrowing, or that occasional struggle to access the clarity you know exists within you, understand that it does not define who you are. It is part of a season you have been walking through, and just as seasons change, the weight they leave behind can begin to lift as well. When I describe that heaviness, that narrowing, that feeling that your clearest thoughts seem harder to reach than they once were, many chosen ones immediately recognize it. They know exactly what it feels like, because they have lived with it for far longer than anyone around them realizes. It becomes part of the background of everyday life, so familiar that they stop questioning it and simply learn to carry it alongside everything else. That is why this matters. The weight you have been carrying was never meant to become a permanent part of your identity. The season that required such deep endurance also left behind strain, and some of that strain settled into places you rarely spoke about. Yet God knows every part of what this journey has required, including the impact it has had on your mind, your energy, and your ability to access the clarity that once felt more natural. The beautiful thing is that restoration does not begin by creating something new. It begins by uncovering what was always there beneath the weight. The clarity you miss has not disappeared. The clarity you miss has not disappeared. The creativity you once carried has not been lost. The deeper awareness that felt easier to access in earlier seasons still exists within you, waiting for space to breathe again. Many people who have walked through long seasons of hidden preparation describe a similar experience. They speak about carrying an inner knowing for years, while seeing very little reflected back to them in the external world. Over time, the effort of holding that tension can create exhaustion that reaches beyond the emotional and settles into the way they think, perceive, and move through daily life. What often surprises them is realizing that the heaviness was connected to the season itself. The constant pressure of carrying unanswered questions, delayed outcomes, and unseen responsibilities can quietly accumulate over time. The mind adapts, the heart adapts, and eventually a person forgets what it felt like before that weight became familiar. But seasons are not permanent. What was required during one chapter of your journey is not necessarily meant to follow you into the next. As circumstances begin to shift and long-held tensions begin to loosen, many people experience a gradual return of clarity, insight, and mental spaciousness. It is less like becoming someone new and more like remembering someone you have always been. That is important because the season ahead will ask something different of you. It will require attentiveness, wisdom, creativity, and the ability to recognize opportunities and connections as they appear. The person stepping into what is opening before them needs room to think clearly, perceive accurately, and move with confidence rather than exhaustion. Most people will never understand this part of the journey. They may see the visible results of your growth one day, but they will never fully understand the internal cost of carrying something significant for so long. They will not see the countless moments when your mind wrestled with uncertainty, or the quiet fatigue created by years of holding on to something that had not yet arrived. God sees it though. He sees every layer of what this season has required from you. His care extends beyond the visible and reaches into every hidden part of your preparation. He understands the emotional weight, the mental strain, and the invisible effort that others never recognized. And because he sees it all, he also understands what needs restoration. The same God who remained present throughout the formation season remains present now as the season begins to change. His attention has never left you, and his awareness includes every dimension of your readiness for what comes next. Before we move forward, I want to say one more thing about this heaviness and the clarity that sometimes felt out of reach. What you have been experiencing is connected to a season, not a permanent condition. The pressure that once seemed endless is beginning to shift, and with that shift comes space for restoration as long-held questions begin to find answers and things that felt suspended start moving again. The strain they created begins to loosen its grip. The mind no longer has to carry the same unresolved burden. The heart no longer has to hold every uncertainty with the same intensity. Gradually, room is created for clarity to return. The chosen one who enters a new season with renewed clarity does more than think differently. They become more receptive to insight, more aware of meaningful connections, and more capable of recognizing what God is placing before them. There is a freshness that begins to emerge when the weight of one season no longer defines the next. The path ahead will call for discernment and thoughtful decisions. It will require creativity, wisdom, and the ability to respond to what unfolds before you. That is why restoration matters. It is not only about feeling lighter, it is about being fully present for what is opening. God knows what you carry. He knows what it has cost you, what it has shaped within you, and what it has temporarily weighed down. And because he knows, he is attentive not only to your calling, but also to your readiness to step into the next chapter with the clarity and strength it deserves. Part of what God sees is every layer of your readiness. He sees the spiritual growth, the emotional endurance, and the places within you that have been stretched and strengthened through this journey. Nothing about your preparation has been overlooked. Every dimension of what has been forming inside you matters because every part of you is being prepared for what comes next. Chosen one, we have arrived at a sacred point in this message, the place where everything we have talked about begins to gather into a single truth. Before I speak about release, I want to pause and acknowledge something with gratitude. I am grateful that these words found you, and I am grateful that you stayed long enough to receive what they were meant to uncover within you. I am grateful for the season that shaped you, not because the difficulty itself was desirable, but because of what emerged through it. The person standing here now is not the same person who first stepped into this journey. You have become steadier, deeper, and more equipped than you realize, carrying lessons that could only be learned through experience. The formation season was never punishment. It was a process of construction. While you were focused on surviving difficult days, something was being built within you that could not have been built any other way. God saw who you would become long before you could see it yourself, and the work has been unfolding with greater purpose than you may fully understand. Most people will never know what it truly cost you to arrive at this moment. They will not know the hidden battles, the private decisions, or the countless times you continued forward when no one understood what you were carrying. God knows, and before anything else, that reality deserves to be honored. So now I release you from the burden of feeling unseen. I release you from the weight of carrying something meaningful while living in a season where others could not recognize it. What was hidden was never insignificant. Some of the most important things in life grow beneath the surface long before they are visible to the world. I release you from the pressure created by that invisibility. The season is shifting, and what has been forming within you is moving toward expression. It may not happen all at once, and it may unfold more gently than expected, but what was hidden is no longer destined to remain hidden forever. I release you from the loneliness of carrying something few people could understand. There were moments when you felt like the only person in the room holding a particular knowing, the only one aware of a reality that had not yet taken visible shape. That loneliness required tremendous strength, and you carried it longer than many people realize. You are fully known by God, completely known. Nothing is missing from His understanding of your journey, and that truth provides a stronger foundation than the approval, recognition, or understanding of any other person ever could. I release you from every moment when you struggled to explain what was happening inside you. There were times when your words felt too small for what you were trying to describe. What lived within you was still developing, still taking shape, and language could only carry part of the reality. Those moments were never failures. They were signs that something was still growing beneath the surface. In time, what was difficult to express will become easier to recognize because it will have reached a fuller expression of itself. What once existed as a glimpse will eventually stand as something complete. I also release you from the need to justify how long this season lasted. You do not owe explanations for every delay, every detour, or every year that unfolded differently than expected. The timing of your formation belonged to a process larger than appearances, and its length was connected to the depth of what needed to be formed within you. This season was not slow. It was thorough. Every layer of it served a purpose, and the care invested in your preparation reflects the significance of what lies ahead. What was built within you required time, and that time was not wasted. I release you from the quiet grief that often accompanies hidden seasons. There is a unique ache that comes from knowing the most important thing happening in your life is also the thing few people can see. Carrying that reality for years can leave a mark on the heart. You no longer need to carry that grief as a permanent companion. The season of expression is approaching. What has lived within you is moving toward visibility, not because visibility creates its value, but because what was formed was always meant to be shared in some way. I also release you from believing that the mental and emotional heaviness of this season defines who you are. The fatigue, the narrowing, the moments when clarity seemed harder to access were part of a chapter, not a permanent identity. Seasons leave impressions, but they do not get the final word. Now hear this clearly. You are the one God knows, not as a future possibility, not as someone who may become ready one day, but as the person standing here right now. You have been shaped, refined, strengthened, and prepared through every stage of this journey. God does not speak about your identity with hesitation. He knows exactly what has been produced in you through the hidden years. He knows the depth, the resilience, the compassion, and the wisdom that now live within you because of everything you have carried. What you carry may never be fully understood by everyone around you, and that is not a flaw. Some things are too significant to be measured by immediate recognition. What has been formed in you possesses its own weight, its own depth, and its own purpose. You are equipped for what is opening. The preparation is complete for this stage of the journey. What you carry now includes both the original calling and the person you became while learning how to carry it. Together they form exactly what is needed for the season ahead. Walk forward with that understanding. Walk forward knowing that God has never lost sight of who you are. Walk forward knowing that the length of the formation was not a mistake, and that what it produced within you belongs to what comes next. And so it is. Amen. Type "I am the one" in the comments if this message spoke to something deep within you. Let those words be an acknowledgement of what you are choosing to receive today. If you know someone who is still walking through a hidden season and needs this reminder, share this message with them. Sometimes the right word arrives at exactly the right moment. God knows who you are. Most people may never fully understand what you have carried, but He does. And for the chosen one, that knowing becomes a foundation strong enough to walk on. There is someone hearing these words right now who still feels hesitant to fully accept them. Years of waiting have made belief feel unfamiliar, and hidden seasons have created habits of doubt that are difficult to release. If that is you, hear this gently and clearly. You do not need to earn permission to receive what God has already spoken. You do not need another season of waiting before you can stand in what is true. The fact that this message reached you is enough of an invitation to receive it. God knows you are the one. Receive that truth. Let it become the ground beneath your feet rather than a possibility you continue postponing. As you move into what comes next, move forward with the confidence of someone who is fully known, fully seen, and fully held by the one who guided you through every step of the journey. There is something powerful about entering a new season while carrying that certainty within you. Moving forward becomes different when you know that the God who formed you is the same God who is leading you into what comes next, and that changes everything. The chosen one who steps into the arrival season does not move forward feeling abandoned to chance. They are not walking into an uncertain future while hoping God will somehow make things work out along the way. They are stepping into something that has already been seen, prepared, and held within His care long before they arrived at this moment. What is opening before them is not separate from God's attention. It exists within it. There is a profound difference between believing God is aware of you and knowing that the God who knows you completely is also the one who prepared the road ahead. That realization creates a kind of confidence that does not depend on circumstances, approval, or visible guarantees. It is a confidence rooted in relationship, built through years of walking with Him when very little made sense. That confidence does not need to announce itself. It does not strive to prove anything. It comes from alignment. When you know who God has formed you to be, and you trust the one who formed you, your posture toward the future begins to change. You stop asking whether you are enough for what is ahead and begin moving from the understanding that you have already been prepared for it. The same steady knowing that carried you through the hidden years now carries you forward into the visible ones. The faith that sustained you when there was no evidence becomes the same faith that guides your steps when opportunities begin to appear. What once helped you endure now helps you move. So walk in that knowing, not as a performance of confidence and not as an attempt to appear strong. Walk in it as a simple response to what you have learned through experience. God knows who you are. He knows what He placed within you, what He formed within you, and what He prepared you for. The arrival season is not the place where you finally prove your identity. It is the place where the identity that has been developing all along begins to express itself more fully. You do not become the one when the door opens. The opening reveals who you have been becoming through every hidden day that came before it. There is one final thing I want to say about what most people will never know. During the formation season, much of what was happening within you remained invisible. The growth, the endurance, the lessons, and the quiet transformations all took place beneath the surface where few people could recognize them. As this next season unfolds, some of those invisible things will begin to reveal themselves naturally. The depth that was formed in silence will become visible in the way you respond to life. The resilience developed through waiting will show itself in the way you carry responsibility. The compassion shaped by your own hidden struggles will be felt by the people whose lives you touch. Others may recognize something different about you without fully understanding where it came from. They may notice a steadiness, a wisdom, or a depth that feels uncommon. What they see will be real, but they will only be seeing the fruit. The roots were formed in places they never witnessed. They will see the expression without fully knowing the years that shaped it. They will not see every unseen sacrifice, every private act of faithfulness, or every season when you continued forward despite having no visible confirmation. Yet those hidden years are part of everything that now flows through you. You will know the root. God will know the root. And there is something deeply powerful about that shared knowing. It becomes a quiet foundation beneath your life, a truth that does not need to be explained or defended because it has already been lived. As you step into the fuller expression of what this season prepared you for, remember that nothing from the journey was wasted. Every hidden lesson, every difficult day, every act of faithfulness became part of the person standing here now. And that person is ready to walk forward carrying not only the calling, but also the depth, wisdom, and strength that the journey itself produced.